From WhatsApp fraud to investment scams, cybercrime has intensified over the last few years, and cyber threats are a significant risk to businesses of all sizes. We joined cybersecurity expert Francis West to get some practical advice on how to avoid falling victim to online scams and cyber attacks. In part 1, we discuss examples of cyber attacks, the role of the government and the police in protecting us from cybercrime and the risks of hybrid working. Can you give us some examples of recent cyber attacks that have affected people you know?
This is a friend of mine. He runs a FM company, and his sister's son just recently got done. Now, this boy is 23 years old. His name is John. I hope he's not listening. But he was about an hour away from exchanging or buying his first house. And the solicitor that he was dealing with was hacked. And at the last minute, what they did was they sent change of bank details. And this boy was so excited, and he paid £47,000 straight into the hacker's bank account. Now, I won't mention the bank's name, but the bank said, tough, you press the pay now button. And the solicitor turned around and said, well, look at the bottom of my email. It clearly states that never ever accept change of bank details in the email. But he was so excited to buy his first house. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Friday fraud. But Friday fraud, this is happening to so many first-time buyers, normally between 25 to 35, and it's because their conveyancing solicitors are normally not properly protected. Out of every 100 we see, maybe 4 or 5% are actually properly protected. And I tell you, that's why we do this, because the pain that goes through and people that suffer because of the loss that they suffer every time there's an event. I'll give you another case, recently where another FM company where I was going to call it Maria. Now, Maria has been working there for 30 years in this business. Email comes in, she makes a very large payment straight into the hacker's bank account. Now, this girl, it's a woman, she's not a girl, she's been working there for such a long time. She took it so personally that she's been off work now for over 6 months. And when I spoke to the owner said, oh, wow, you know what, I feel like sacking her. I'm like, you can't do that. He says, why? I said, number one, if you had email security in place, that email would have never seen the light of day, number one. Number two, you had no proper process in place to teach her or to tell her what process to follow if there's email to come in to make a massive payment. Do you know, and it's just wrong. And I think a lot of business owners are not taking it seriously and are relying on their third party, maybe IT supplier, or they rely on their staff members to be that last line of defense. We should just take that risk away from them. And that's how you fix the problem.
Why should FM companies in particular be wary of cyber attacks?
When the what's-name hits the fan, and your customers find out that you're responsible for losing their data, they will stop trading with you. And we call that, supply chain attacks. There are so many attacks. Did you see what happened recently with St. Thomas's Hospital? That was directly related to a supply chain attack. So one of their suppliers was not properly protected, so they got in via the supplier straight into St. Thomas Hospital, and the rest is history. I mean, the thing is with FM companies, let's say door entry systems. So they're looking after a business, and they've got staff that need to go in, and they've got all that information about entry systems, about, passwords. And if they don't look after it and people get onto it, they have full access to that business. And again, if they get done, the company will get done, which means whenever we do forensic analysis, we can always trace it back to the source. So we know where the attack originated. Now, if we can prove it came from your FM company, guess what's going to happen? Not only will you lose your reputation, but potentially you'll also lose your biggest clients. How's that a good idea?
Do you think the next generation of company directors will be more cyber savvy?
I tell you what, now that's an interesting question, because the problem that we see with the youngsters coming through is that they click, 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 click. So in other words, if something doesn't instantly happen, they think it's broken. So, and because it's such a fast-paced environment now, whereas if we rewind 20, 30, 40 years ago, everything is slow. Even with payments, we took 3 days. Now, with the younger people coming through, they expect everything to happen instantly. And most cases that we deal with, again, the younger business owners, although they're savvy with social media and everything else, they're still not savvy when it comes to how to best protect their business and also their data.
Should the government do more to prevent cyber attacks?
The government is doing a lot. They are, from the information that I have, are preventing something like 70% of attacks every day, which is a big number. So even after that, if you look at the amount of money that's lost every day within the UK, it still accounts for something like 60%, 70% of all crime now is cybercrime. And we work very closely with the likes of Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire, cyber police units. And you'll be shocked if I tell you, there's only 3 people in those 3 counties that are responsible for cybercrime. Now, if you lose anything below £10,000, you will not even get a phone call back. They just don't have the resources, even though it makes up 60% of all fraud and crime in the UK, which is insane. So to answer your question, yes, the government is doing a lot. Problem is, they don't have the resources to follow through on attacks. And 2, most of the attacks are coming from North Korea, China, all the other countries. So they don't have the resources to send somebody there to go and do anything. It's just, nothing happens. And this is why it's so important to take this seriously and to fix the problem before it happens.
What are some specific cyber risks that can result from hybrid working?
We do a lot of work with people at home as well, because a lot of people work from home, of course. And what they don't realize is when people wouldn't work before COVID, when they're working at the office, it was a little bit contained. But now that people are working from home, they're working from their laptop, their work laptop that's connected to the same Wi-Fi network as their child. The child is now downloading dodgy mods, from a gaming website that they don't realize it's infected. And now that infection spreads to the mom or dad's machine. So either they take that laptop back in the office and infect all the machines, or even worse, we dealt with a case recently where they connected with a VPN. I think VPNs are the most dangerous things on the planet, right? And what happened there was the infection went securely down the VPN tunnel to their head office and then went down to every other connector and took out the entire company. Because VPNs only transfer data securely from one end to the other end. Most people don't configure VPNs correctly. I mean, I've been doing this for 34 years. The way to configure a VPN correctly is to make sure that only the data that needs to transfer down, in other words, let's say you open up some CRM. So you should only allow the CRM connection to go through the VPN and then open the VPN or the CRM data on the other side. Most people don't do that. So they leave the VPN completely open, which means it'll transfer any data down the VPN. Make sense? And I can actually I can give you a good example. So imagine in the old days, even now, you're sitting on the second floor in a multi-story building, and maybe you've got a cold, or the good old days you had COVID, right? And you start sneezing. What's the one thing that connects the second floor to the third floor? So you've got your ducting, the metal ducting that goes, and that's really secure, isn't it? But the particles of your COVID, it's just gone securely from the second floor to the third floor and infected everybody on the third floor. That's a VPN for you. Now you can see why we're so dead against it. Our advice is rather secure the device. We call it securing the island. Because once you've secured the PC or the Mac, then at least we know that even if a daughter or son has an infected mod, it won't be able to spread to your machine because you've got the best protection money can buy.